Hey guys, in this video, we're looking at 9 ways you can use your queen more effectively. Now, before I get into that, I want to just mention I do have my next over-the-board tournament coming up later this week, so stay on the lookout. Those video recaps will be coming very soon, and hopefully I can do better than last tournament. For those of you who saw those videos, you know, didn't quite go as planned. I lost about 40 points, so we'll see if we can do any better, but that's coming. Having said that, though, let's go ahead and jump right into how to use our queen. All right, so when it comes to the queen, we kind of have a similar situation like we had with the rooks. Okay, the queen is a very valuable piece, and if you bring the queen out too early, like some people like to do, you can get into trouble. Now, of course, because it's such a powerful piece, can you get quick, checkmates and win some pawns here and there if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing? Of course, there's there's this little trap where you can win their rook, or there's the famous 4-move checkmate, right? Where your opponent doesn't see what's going on and you just win in 4 moves. That can happen, but once you hit a certain level, I think it's around 800 to 1,000 when players start to understand how to stop this and what to do, you're going to be just setting yourself up to get into bad positions, okay? And it's the same reason that we talked about with the rook. The queen is a high-valued piece, so if your opponent knows what they're doing, they're going to play g6, and guess what? You have to move it, and then you can come back here. They're just going to develop their pieces, and your queen, it ends up just being a target, right? The knight can come in and harass it, and then you have to move it, and then this knight maybe can go somewhere, or the bishops can attack it, and you really don't want your queen to be moving all around the board so early, just wasting time. So you have to be very careful bringing it out early. Now, that being said, there are some specific times that you do want to bring it out and things that you want to be looking for, which we'll talk about later in this video. But as a general rule, a lot of times it makes sense to get your knights and bishops out first and really wait for the right opportunity before you start to go for the queen, okay? Keep that in mind as we go through this list of 9 things. All right, number one thing about the queen is that it is extremely effective at checkmating your opponent's king. So this is one of the most basic endgame techniques that you should probably learn when you first start playing chess, how to checkmate with a king and a queen against a king. It's very simple. You've got the box, you keep making the box smaller and smaller, and eventually you'll get this position where the king is completely cut off on one rank, and you simply bring your king up, and it doesn't matter where the king goes, you can get checkmate. Now, this is at the end of the game, but this concept, this idea that the queen right next to your opponent's king, as long as it's defended, will always be checkmate. Of course, as long as nothing can take your queen. In this case, there's no other pieces. But this idea, you want to keep in mind, if we go back to the start of the game here, what this means is our queen is very valuable and very powerful for that reason. It's one of the best attacking pieces that we have. So if you're trying to go for a checkmating attack, you need to make sure your queen is involved. And at the same time, you have to pay attention to what your opponent's doing with their queen. Because if it's coming towards your king and you're not prepared defensively, it's not going to end well. Okay, so keep those things in mind. Queens are extremely powerful, and usually you just need one other piece to help the queen and you can get a very strong checkmating attack. All right, the second thing about queens that you want to keep in mind is when you are considering bringing your queen out somewhere, you want to ask yourself the question, is this going to be a safe square for my queen or not? So for example, is queen h5 a safe square for the queen? Not really, because the knight can go to f6 at some point. First, black's going to defend this pawn, but at some point very soon, the knight's going to go to f6, chase your queen away, you're going to waste some time, right? So it's not really a safe square. What about g4? Same kind of idea. The knight can go to f6, even this pawn can come up, bishop's attacking your queen, you're going to have to move. Not really a safe square. What about f3? It looks a little bit more safe, but it's really actually not a great square as well, because after knight f6, this pawn comes up, guess what? Bishop to g4, it's going to be attacking your queen. Or knight c6, knight d4, it's going to be attacking your queen. So really, again, not really a great square. And then queen e2 is probably safer, but you still have to watch out for this. And it's blocking your bishop, so that doesn't really make sense. So in this position, there's not really any, I would say, good safe squares for our queen. So let's look at another example. Let's say we play c3, knight c6, and we're considering playing queen a4. Is queen a4 a safe square for our queen? Well, I would say this is much safer than these other ones that we looked at, because this knight, first of all, can't really get to our queen, not anytime soon, right? It would take 1, 2, 3 moves, and you can't even go there. So I don't know, something like this maybe, but that's a lot of moves and not going to be easy for black to do. What about the bishop? Maybe d6, bishop d7, but then we would have some time to react because the knight would have to move. So this is a much safer square than h5, g4, f3, in my opinion. So these are the kind of things that you want to think through when you're considering, I'd like to move my queen somewhere. You want to ask yourself, is this a safe square, or am I going to be just wasting my time, right? What about c2? Is this a safe square for my queen? I would say, yeah, that's a pretty safe square because you've got the knight dominated by this pawn already, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no chance that a bishop's going to come here, at least not right now, because our pawn has got that diagonal closed off. So that's a very nice square. You don't have to worry about your queen getting harassed, so I'd be okay with that. What about b3? Is this a safe square? You might notice that there's knight a5. So this one's kind of debatable because no, it's not really safe, but then also black putting their knight on the edge of the board maybe is kind of a questionable choice, and then we could just probably drop back, and it's like I don't even know if black really accomplished anything from that. So in this position, I might be okay with queen to b3, right? So those are the things you want to think through, which squares are safe and which squares are going to cost you a bunch of time. Right, so those are some kind of general ideas and concepts about the queen that you want to keep in mind, right? That it's very powerful, it's very good at checkmating your opponent's king, it's one of your best attacking pieces. And you know, you want to be looking out for safe squares. But now the next couple items on the list are going to be some very specific ways you can use your queen, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this. So let's go to number 3. All right, so for the third way to use our queen, I'm going to give you an example first and see if you can spot the move, and then we'll talk about what the way is. So this is the Sicilian. This is actually a trap, and we play c3, okay? And after knight f6, black's attacking the pawn on e4. We can actually play the move bishop to e2 and completely ignore it. So the question for you, if you've never seen this before, is why are we okay giving up our e-pawn for free? What is our response going to be? Well, if you've had a chance to look at that and you're ready to see the solution, the point behind this is that if black does take the pawn, we have queen a4 check, and we're forking the king and the knight. We're winning our piece back. Black has to deal with the check on the king, and then we can simply take the knight. So we just won a piece. So this is a trap, like I mentioned, but this idea of playing queen a4 check and then potentially taking another piece somewhere along this rank is a good idea to keep in the back of your mind, right? Because sometimes there's like a random bishop over here, or in this case, the knight was on e4. Like, it happens in different ways, but queen a4 check, keep it in the back of your mind and make sure if there's any pieces along this fourth rank, you watch out for it. And this can go the other way too. If you're playing as black and you're considering, right, a game like this where I wonder if I should take that. Well, always ask yourself, what's going to happen if my opponent brings the queen out and puts me in check? Am I going to get into danger? Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, the next way you can use your queen is by attacking a b7 or g7 pawn after the bishops have moved, or even sometimes before the bishops have moved. So here's an example. This comes out of the French, and this is the winnower, and one of the main lines is pushing e5, c5, and then you can actually play queen g4. Now, sometimes this move will happen later. I think the main line actually white delays, but to illustrate the point, you can actually play queen g4 now. And we are trying to take advantage of the fact that this bishop is gone and this pawn on g7 is weak, right? So usually what happens in these types of situations, first of all, if black, you know, doesn't know what's going on and just plays a random move like knight c6, well, they're just losing. You just take it and the rook is trapped. Okay, so this is kind of a very basic thing. You'll see it at the lower levels, but you know, you just take the rook, right? But most of the time what's going to happen is players will realize what's happening and they'll do something like this. They'll move the knight, they'll let you take it, and then they'll slide the rook over. And in this case, you can actually get another pawn. But what happens is you lose some time, right? Because you spend 1, 2, 3 moves with your queen. Black develops the knight, gets the rook on an aggressive and active file. And so they actually do get quite a bit of compensation. So you want to be making sure you're okay with that. Now, this is definitely playable for white. The engine actually likes black a little bit just because, you know, black has like 3 pieces out and we only have really the knight. But this is kind of what you want to think through. And so there's, like I said, there's a couple ways you can do this. This example, we saw queen g4. This is pretty common in the French where this bishop comes out right away. You'll see this a lot. But let's go back and look at another example. In queen's gambit types of openings, it's more common, let's just say, I don't know, black does something with the bishop. It's pretty common when this bishop comes out that you'll see queen b3. Sorry, queen b3. And again, it's the same idea, right? We're going to try to go take this pawn if black lets us. Now, of course, it's not that simple because black can move their knight. Like I said, the rook's going to probably come over, put some pressure here. So, you know, you have to think through that, but this is definitely something to keep in the back of your mind. And sometimes what you can actually do is play queen b3 at some point to prevent the bishop from being developed, right? Because now if black tries to develop, well, guess what? We're just going to take it. So those are the kind of things you want to keep in mind. Queen b3, queen g4 in some cases to attack these pawns. And of course it works if you're black as well. Same kind of thing on b2 and g2. All right, the next way you can use your queen is by attacking the king with queen to h5. Now, we've already kind of talked about why you don't want to do this right at the start of the game. Yes, some people at the lower levels can get away with this little trick, you know, but once black knows what they're doing, it's not going to end well. So you don't want to play that right away, but you do want to be on the lookout as the game progresses, especially if black castles kingside. You want to be on the lookout for queen h5. So let me give you a good example. So here's a position. We can see black is castled kingside. It's our turn. We actually have a very strong move as white. What do you think we should play? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the best move in this position is bishop takes h7. Now, there are actually a lot of good moves. Knight g5 is a strong move. It gets ready to unleash the queen, build the pressure with the knight. That's not a bad move, but it's not as good as just simply sacrificing the bishop. This is called the Greek gift, I believe, sacrifice, where you give up this bishop for free. And the point is that now we can follow it up with knight g5 check. If the king goes back, we are setting up, remember, queen h5, right? This is the move that I'm showing you. And so now black is just getting mated, or I think technically they could survive if they sack the queen, but I mean, you're just completely winning, right? And if they don't sack the queen, they can try to run this way, but it's not going to help them because you take here on f7, king goes over, check, 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 and mate. Okay, so very, very common idea to keep in the back of your mind when your opponent castles kingside is that the queen can come to h5. But like we saw in this example, sometimes you have to set it up. Sometimes it's not as simple as, you know, move your knight, move your queen, and checkmate, right? Black's probably not going to let you do that. So this is a good example. And one thing that's very important to note here, because black's knight is not on f6, right? It was on f6, we chased it away and it moved away. That's when this opens up and becomes an opportunity for you. So as the game goes on, if you ever see that knight on f6 either move away somewhere, like in this case, or if it gets traded off, or if your opponent doesn't put it there, like if they develop the knight to e7 or something instead, that's when you want to keep an eye out for queen h5 on the castled king. It's a very, very good way to attack, and a lot of times will lead to checkmates. All right, the next way to use your queen is to create batteries. So remember, batteries are when you line up multiple pieces on the same file or same diagonal. So the queen is capable of doing batteries with other bishops or with the rooks. We're going to look at some examples with the rooks in just a second. But first, this is kind of one of the most common ways to create a very strong checkmate threat. You bring the bishop out, you drop it back, you bring the queen up to d3. And this is particularly useful when they castle kingside. Again, you create the checkmate threat on h7. I've talked about this before on this channel, but it's very, very difficult for black to figure out what to do, because if they just kind of ignore you, you're going to probably play g4, g5. And once that knight moves, this is checkmate. If they try to stop it with like h6, you're still going to do that, create an open g file. I mean, you can play h4. There's a lot of ways that you can approach this. Like if they play, let's just say g6, you can just play h4, h5. I mean, it's just very dangerous for black. So easy way, create a checkmate threat, queen to d3. And another type of battery with the queen and bishop is when you're playing against a fianchettoed bishop that you're trying to get rid of. So a good example of this would be the King's Indian. Somebody plays the King's Indian against you. You don't like dealing with that bishop. What can you do about it? Simply put your queen on d2, put your bishop on e3, create this battery, go down there and trade it off. So very simple and easy thing to do. Gets rid of that powerful bishop, makes the opponent's king weaker because the bishop is not going to be controlling those dark squares, and you can potentially take advantage of that at some point in the future. Very easy thing to do. Like I said, queen d2, bishop e3, go trade it off. All right, and the next example of a battery here is to create a battery with your queen and rook on the open or a half open h file. So this is kind of a trick question, but what do you think the best move for white is in this position? If you want to pause and think about it. And if you had a chance to look at that, the best move is actually rook takes h7, so not queen h5, even though I just said creating a battery. The problem with queen h5 is that black has bishop e4, and it kind of just defends everything, and now you're going to have a hard time breaking through. But what we can do is sacrifice the rook first, and after the king takes, now we can play queen h5 check, forces the king back, and we make a battery using this rook. Okay, so we do still get the battery on the open h file, but now bishop e4 doesn't do anything because we have checkmate. So the only thing black could try would be to like move this pawn up to try to escape this way, but we can just play g6, keep the king boxed in, and there's no way to stop checkmate next move on h8. So but again, that started with sacrificing the rook just to open up the king, get that h file open, and then using the queen and the rook to create the battery. And once you get this kind of a setup, if black's pieces are out of position, there's just nothing they can do. Okay, so keep that in mind. Use your queen to create a rook rook and queen battery along an open file like this. All right, and for the next way to use your queen, I have an example for you here. It's white to play and win. What should white play? I'll give you a second to think about that. Pause it if you'd like. And if you had a chance to look at that, the move is knight to d7 check. And what we are doing is setting up a smothered checkmate. And so the way that the queen is involved in the smothered checkmate, here you go with the double check. King has to go. You sacrifice the queen, right? That's the whole point in these smothered checkmates. You sacrifice the queen, and of course it's defended by the knight, so the king can't take, which means the rook has to take it. And the reason you did that is to surround the king with their own pieces, and then the knight comes in for the smothered checkmate. So that's a good one to keep in mind. And you do have to sacrifice your queen, but this kind of brings me to the point. You can sacrifice your queen at these moments to set up checkmates, and it's worth it because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get checkmate. All right, the next way to use your queen happens a lot in endgames, particularly when lots of pieces have been traded off. So this position, black's completely winning, has a lot of extra material, is about to get another queen, is about to get checkmate multiple different ways, but it's white's turn. And so because of that, white is able to come down and go for the perpetual check, back and forth for 3 times, and the game is just a draw. And so keep this in mind when you're playing queen endgames in particular. Even if you're down by a significant amount of material, if you're able to find a spot where your opponent's king is not super well defended, they don't have a lot of pieces that can block off from your queen checking them, you can a lot of times get perpetual check. It happens in a lot of different ways, but this is definitely something to keep in mind. And if you are playing, the side with the extra material, you can't let your king be in a position like this. You have to have at least one piece, maybe the knight or the queen could have come back and blocked to give yourself some shield, so that you don't, obviously get perpetual check like this and just get a draw. So keep those things in mind, but queens are very good at perpetual checks at the end of the game. All right, the next way we can use our queen is by pinning the H or the A pawns to the rooks in the corner. Now, if that sounds really weird to you, don't worry. We're going to look at an example. But this is the Scandinavian. By the way, the Scandinavian is one of the openings that kind of goes against the principle of not bringing your queen out early. But there's specific techniques for playing this opening and things that you can do with your queen to kind of keep it safe. And one of those techniques is sometimes you swing it over to A5, or in some cases even to H5, which actually turn out to be pretty safe squares for the queen. And we'll look at that just in a second. So bishop G4, bishop E2, knight C6, C3, okay. And at this point, white plays the move H3, and they're obviously trying to take this bishop. And we could just retreat. We could trade it for the knight, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. We're going to lose some time, give up the bishop pair. Or my personal favorite, we can play queen H5. And what we're doing is creating, like I said, a pin on this pawn, so that if it tries to take our bishop, we're going to be taking the rook. So we're winning the exchange. It's a very nice way to deal with this attack on your bishop. If your queen is ever out in the center somewhere like this, you can do this on the H file. Or you can do the same thing over here. If this knight would have went to C3 and we would have pinned it, and the pawn would have, sometimes you can do that here. Now, on the A5, you have to be careful because the queen is defending the rook in this case, right? So that wouldn't work. But if the queen was already up or whatever, same idea can apply. But in this case, white has to make a tough decision. They can't take us. If they want to actually threaten the bishop, they would have to castle, because now there's no more pin. But this is kind of risky because now we can even just sacrifice if we want. We've got a lot of threats. White has to be very careful, and I think this is pretty equal according to Stockfish, but very dangerous position for white. So the point, going back, is just remember you can use your queen to create these little pins, and it can be pretty annoying for your opponent, especially if they've never seen it before at the lower to intermediate levels. A lot of times they don't know how to respond to that. So keep that in mind. Like I said, it works on both sides. And that's one of my favorite ways to deal with this attack on the bishop. All right, guys, that's 9 ways you can use your queens more effectively in chess. Let me know if I left anything out or if you have questions. Don't forget, my tournament is coming very soon, so be on the lookout for those recaps. And I'm not sure if we'll do how to use your king or not. There are a couple of things to keep in mind, like the active king in the endgame is good to be aware of, but I'm not sure if I can come up with a whole list of different ways to use your king, but we'll see. But I have to get ready for my tournament as well, so it might just be jumping into the tournament recaps for the next video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.